Okay. I believe we're ready to go, aren't we? Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call the Budget and Finance and Investment Committee meeting to order. And we will start with one statement that I need to start with is that we lost a 20-year County Commissioner, Grant Kelly, and he was also on the school board for about 8 years. And then Chairman P.'s wife is having some health problems, and also Commissioner Gooch is in Florida. So I'd like to have a moment of silent prayer for all these people involved and safe trips back and everything. And Phil Dodd will be signaling that 1 minute being up by saying amen. So let's have a moment of silent prayer. Thank you, Phil. First order of business will be to approve the minutes of September 9th, 2021 meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I've read those minutes and I find them to be in order, and I would make a motion that we approve them as presented.
Okay. Mr. Stevens made the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, Ms. Allen. All in favor say aye. Opposed? None. Motion carries. Okay. Item number 2, investment report. Mr. Tel Beatty. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Commissioner. Thank you. No change in our rates on our investments. Still 2 basis points on our LGIP, 15 basis points in our with our financial institution with First Bank on the balances that are there. In the way of another announcement, tax bills are in the mail. It's that time. You have till February the 28th to pay without interest. And so we're in Smyrna 8 to 4 every day with a break for lunch from 12:30 to 1, in Murfreesboro every day from 8 to 4:30 all day, and website rctrustee.com. You can search or pay.
You have heard the report. Is there any questions or any comments? If not, a motion to approve this report.
Motion to approve.
Mr. Piercy made the motion. Second? Mr. Dodd made the second. All in favor say aye. Okay, motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Baker.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
All right. Item number 3, the fund condition report. Call upon our Finance Director, Lisa Nolan.
Okay, I'm going to start with the development tax and school facility tax. For the month of October, we had collected $101,250 for the month of September, totaling $452,250 for the development tax. And then for the school facility tax, we collected $297,244 in September. That brought our total to $583,159. The combined total to date is, let's see, $1 million. Is that right? Make sure I have it right. Is $1,035,409. Moving on to the cash, at the end of September, we had $375,256,000 in total, with $316,573,000 being operating funds, $58,682,000 being borrowed funds. One item of note that we're going to talk about later. When you look at the general fund cash balances at the end of September with $50.4 million compared to $42.4 million September last year, just know that in that cash balance in the general fund is $6.2 million of emergency rental assistance funds that was forwarded to us. It's still in those balances. Looking at revenue, I've given you on the front page, because the general fund, when you look at it in total dollars compared to prior, it looks a little different, but you've got to remember that it no longer has the development tax in it. So for comparability, I've given you on the top number, like July to September last fiscal year was $658,125. That line is the amount of development tax that we were collected in those prior periods. So then you could kind of subtract that from the number below and then get your comparative apples to apples. Sales tax countywide with 2 months reporting is an increase of almost 22%. Hotel motel tax is an increase of 51%. The other item of note to me that stood out was in the solid waste fund with the, we've almost doubled the amount that we've collected same period of time, July to September, on recycled materials.
That conclude the report? Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, do you have any questions or comments? Okay. Anyone else have any comments or questions? If none, all in favor of accepting this report, say aye.
We need a motion.
Oh, sorry.
Motion to approve report.
Smack me again. Okay, we need a motion for this. Ms. Allen?
Mr. Dodd made the motion.
Mr. Dodd? Okay. And Mr. Pierce? All right. All in favor say aye. Put the cart before the horse on that one. All right. Risk Management Financial Report, Mr. Elam. Good afternoon.
Chairman, today I have brought Susan Thompson with me. She's going to read my report for me just in preparation if there's ever a time I'm not being able to be here. So I'm going to turn it over to her if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman.
Go right ahead.
Thank you.
Welcome.
For the Fund 264 report for September 2021, the total enrollees were 6,302. The revenue for the month was $9,066,351. Expenses, $6,780,043, with revenue less expenses of $2,286,308. The calendar year totals for 2021 is for revenue, is $62,033,757, and expenses $65,884,556, with revenue less expenses of negative $3,850,799. For the fiscal year, the total revenue is $12,770,279. Expenses, $22,138,060, with a revenue less expenses of negative $9,367,781. For the Fund 266 for September 2021, the workers' comp is $2,139.16. OJI is $23,871.92 for a total for the month of September of $26,011.08. The year-to-date total for workers' comp is $9,668.19, with OJI at $161,235.03. That brings the total to $170,903.22. And then the county attorney expenses for the month of September 2021 are $47,192.61. And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Anyone have any questions or comments?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Have a motion to approve?
I thought she done an excellent job.
All in favor say aye. Motion passes. Okay, we've got a general fund budget transfer from risk management.
Yes, we have requested a budget transfer amendment to provide additional funding for training staff. There should be sufficient funds left in the board members per diem, as the committee will not meet 12 times per this year. So we've requested $1,000 be moved from that budget to the travel for training.
Okay, anybody have any questions or comments on that? Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve, and a second? And a second? Okay. Call the roll, Mr. Tucker.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes. Passes. All right, thank you very much. Thank you. Okay. Item number 6, general fund budget amendment for additional court clerk for the juvenile court. Ms. Tammy Albertson, I believe, will be presenting that. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. And we're just asking for amendment for one person for juvenile, because we did not know they got a new magistrate in July, or we would have had it in our budget.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, have a motion to approve.
Second.
And a second. Call the roll, Mr. Martin Tucker.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes. Motion passes.
Okay.
Thank you, Tammy. Okay. General contract for police traffic services for the sheriff's office. Sheriff Fitzhugh will be presenting that.
Okay, the first one that we want to do is a request the acceptance of a grant of $125,000 from the Police Traffic Safety Grant. Originally in March, we had applied for a $50,000 grant, which was approved, but that was as long as we had a liaison with THSO. Because of time constraints, we pulled the THSO officer we had to bring him back into our fold, which then made us eligible for a $125,000 grant. Which we have been awarded, and this will be distributed through overtime and sort of matching equipment for our THSO program. The second one, we're going to take them together?
Yes.
Okay, the second one is a grant, revenue and expenses for the Teen Driver Safety Grant Award for overtime. This is a $15,000 grant. Requires no matching funds, as well as the first one required no matching funds. And this will be awarded for our Teen Safety Driver Program, which is for teaching and alcohol awareness and whatnot with our teens. And that's the two. The third one is a grant that we're going to ask to apply for, so I think it'll be two separate.
We'll do a roll call vote on these two, and then we'll do a voice vote.
Okay.
A voice vote on the next one. Okay. Have a motion and a second on this?
Motion to approve his request.
Okay.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second. Call the roll.
This is a motion to approve the grant contract as well as the two budget amendments. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes. Go ahead, Sheriff.
All right, sir. The last one that I've got is a funding request, the Office of Criminal Justice Program Grant. It is a grant of $75,000. What this money will be, and this is no matching funds, we're asking to seek approval for the acceptance of this grant. If we get that, we're asking for approval to apply for the grant, and then we will come back before Public Safety and Budget if we are awarded. What we're going to use this grant for is an air purification systems, filters, and installation of these units. And this is a result of a COVID grant is what it is. So purification of the air in our building.
Any questions or comments?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve, and got a second?
Second.
And a second. Voice vote. All in favor say aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Okay, item number 10, Ambulance Service Fund Budget Amendment. Mr. Hudgen and Ms. Machodo. Good afternoon.
Chairman, I'm going to let Melanie do this so I can learn if she's not here,
Very good.
okay?
Call that prior proper planning.
Good evening or afternoon. One of our administrative vehicles was totaled in an accident, and the insurance check didn't quite cover what we needed to replace the vehicle and the emergency equipment. So we're requesting to take $15,260 out of the assigned fund balance, and along with the insurance check of $25,482, and transfer $30,742 into our motor vehicles line and $10,000 into our health equipment line.
Any questions or comments?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Second. Okay. Roll call vote, sir?
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Pierce?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Number 11 is the General School Purpose School Fund Budget Amendment. Mr. Beaudry and Mr. Spurlock. Good afternoon.
Right. We've got 4 amendments for 141, so if we'll take those, if it's okay.
That's fine.
those together?
If that's agreeable with everyone.
All right. Okay, the first one is General Purpose School Budget Amendment. This amendment increases the budgeted local option sales tax and general purpose school fund by $795,464 in order to meet the maintenance of effort for the local funding for the state BP funds. The general purpose school fund originally passed the state maintenance of effort test for the current fiscal year during the final budget preparation, but it fell short due to the final end of June 2021 revenue cleanup amendments for the actual collections of sales tax for fiscal year 2021. This increase in fiscal year 21-22 estimated revenue will still reflect the conservative amount of annual local option sales tax while meeting the state maintenance of effort test requirements. Furthermore, these funds will be utilized to budget for additional instructional supplies, equipment, software, and 1 additional special education bus route contract needed for growth in contracted services to support non-payroll needs of enrollment over the 48,200 original student enrollment estimate for the current school year for Rutherford County Schools. I will mention that we, in our first 20 days last year, as far as our ADM was concerned, was 46,633. This first 20 days enrolled for our ADM this year is 48,635. So we not only did we get that 1,000 that came back, but they brought 1,000 more with them. And as I was telling Doug, this will increase as we go along due to the fact that our attendance rates in the very beginning of the first 20 days were a little bit low. And now, since I think the end of September, it's been gone up to about 95% attendance. So those ADMs will increase as we go along. All right, the next amendment is transfer special education buses from Genesis Learning, as well as funding for addendum number 3 for Advantage XP substitute services. This amendment budgets for transfer of 7 special education buses formerly operated by Genesis Learning to direct bus contract between Rutherford County Schools and bus contractors. This funding of $540,766 for these 7 bus contracts come from the reduction of the Genesis Learning due to amended contract to reflect the deletion of bus services. Additionally, this amendment budgets for contract addendum for Advantage XP services with the $100,000 of funding from ESSER2 indirect costs. And basically what that is for those substitutes that may get contact trace. We will build in 5 days for COVID pay for that. All right. Number 3. This amendment budgets for revenue of expenditures for fiscal year 2021-22 for Safe Schools grant. This amendment increases the budgeted Fund 141 revenue and expenditures to recognize the awarded amount of fiscal year 2021-2022 Safe School Grant. This reflects the grant award that was approved by the State Department of Education. This year's grant award is in the amount of $909,209. Number 4, amendment to the budget for one additional full-time custodian for the new Laverne Middle Annex, one-time full-time teacher, and one EA position for the new pre-K program at Plainview Elementary, and additional classroom supplies that was provided for by donation from Nissan, as well as an additional PRN nurse funding for contracted LPN nurses and funding. Basically, on the Laverne Middle School Annex, we base our custodial staff on square footage, and with the removal of the portables and the increase in square footage, it called for another position there as far as the custodial staff. As far as the EA position and the teacher, on the voluntary pre-K, we put in for those. However, we don't know what the state's going to allocate us because it is based on, not everyone gets it, so we were fortunate enough to get an additional one. This amendment budgets for one additional full-time custodian position to clean the new Laverne Middle Annex that will open in October of 2021, as well as one additional teacher and EA position to staff the Plainview Elementary pre-K program that was recently awarded grant funding by the state. Additionally, this amendment recognizes a donation that we received from Nissan in $25,000 to fund our additional STEM instructional supplies at 3 of our Rutherford County schools. Lastly, this amendment budgets for additional 2,000 hours of school registered nurse PRN pay, along with additional funding for contracted services for 3 contracted licensed practical nurses for a 3-month period time in order to assist with current increased workload school nursing with the school nursing that's brought about by the Delta variant. It should be noted that the requested total expenditure increase is $328,069 in the proposed budget amendment. This recurring payroll-related request total $129,259, and this amount is further reduced by the recurring state pre-K grant that totals $88,705 this fiscal year. Funding for the part of the proposed amendment that is not provided by the grant donation funds will be derived from $214,364 from the indirect costs from ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 funds. Any questions on those 3 amendments?
Mr. Mayor.
Or actually 4 amendments.
Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Spurlock, on amendment number 2 on Genesis Learning, they're transferring 7 special ed buses to you all based on a new contract that you have with them. So it looks like you all are going to contract those, give those buses to...
Right. Basically what we've been doing is really subcontracting out our contract. So we wanted to bring it all under the same umbrella. And quite frankly, we're having some issues there in terms of paying on time. And I'm not throwing Genesis under the bus, but so we brought it all together, and that and also we did get a reduction off of the contracts. We amended that contract with Genesis.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Ms. Allen, what was the results of Health and Education?
This was discussed at Health and Ed and passed unanimously, so I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay. Got a second? Got a motion and a second. Roll call.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes. Thank you.
All right, number 5 is the building program amendment, budget amendment fund 189. This budget amendment closes out $2,336,386 from a completed Rock Springs Elementary addition, as well as moving $1,788,301 from the future new elementary projects to help fund the recently approved Rockville Elementary addition. This amendment also recognizes the breakdown of the awarded contract amounts from Rockville Elementary Annex, the Smyrna Middle Annex renovation, and the Rockville Middle Classroom additions.
Allen?
Mr. Chairman, we discussed this in Health and Ed as well, so, and it passed unanimously. I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
Mr. Dodd, roll call.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Highway Fund Budget Amendment, and I believe Lisa's going to take that.
These are two budget amendments. One is for the purchase of 2 John Deere tractors and a mower in the Highway Department, requesting a reduction of their fund balance of $167,898. And then in the Public Works Department, they're requesting from their Committed for Public Works fund balance $319,610 to other equipment to purchase 2 Mack dump trucks off the statewide contracts.
This came out of the road board meeting Monday morning unanimously with approval.
So this also come through Public Works, no problem. I make the motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion second, call the roll.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Motion passes. Okay, item 14, application for hazardous materials emergency preparedness grant. Mr. Chris Clark, Director.
Thank you, Chairman, Commissioners, Mayor. Emergency Management is requesting permission to apply to a hazardous material emergency preparedness grant. This is an 80/20 grant. This application for this all hazard management response training, which we will have emergency operations, emergency center operations, training, air monitoring, chemical identification, tabletop exercises, and it'll be a 3-day event for 30 students. The federal portion of this grant would be $14,280. Our portion of the grant would be $3,570.
This is basically a 80/20 grant then, correct? Instead of
That is
your
correct,
usual
sir.
75/25 or 100%. Okay. Any questions or comments? Mr. Dodd?
So these, does the training occur here? You invite so the bid is for these guys, or these trainers to come in?
Correct, and then we will reach out to all of our partners, response partners, and invite them in, 4 or 5 different students from each entity, and do it as a whole county.
Did this go through public safety?
Yes, sir.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve. Got a second? Okay, motion to approve and second. Call the roll.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. General Fund Budget Amendment for Human Resources. Sonia?
Good evening, everyone. So what I brought forth tonight, Human Resources, as most of you know, is a pretty small department to begin with. And when one person is out, that creates an issue. And then when 2 is out, that creates a bigger issue. Recently I had one of our full-time employees decide to take a position that allowed them to work from home that was more conducive to their family environment, which left us with a vacancy. I have switched some of the employees around to help offset those duties, but that still leaves us with a vacant position. In the meantime, another one of our employees ended up having to have a surgery that could not be postponed, so that puts them out to approximately 12 weeks if they need the entire time, with the soonest they could come back would be in November. I then have another employee that has a procedure scheduled in March, so then that will leave me 3 months with everybody back at work and then nobody after that. In light of the things that's happened in the office and the shortage that having someone is out, I am requesting that we take our part-time position, the monies that we have in that line, to create a full-time. After reviewing what other issues that the other departments have, as well as trying to hire a part-time person, we had posted the position with the potential to see what type of applicants we would get for a part-time capacity. I did get 19 applicants, but of those, the people that we were interested in could not work the schedule that we need. While our part-time person that we have right now, it worked for their schedule at the time. We were hoping that it would work for someone else that was dropping their kids off at school, would come in and work for 5-6 hours and then go pick their kids up. Most of the people are only wanting to work a few days a week and not our entire schedule. Mondays and Fridays are our busiest days, and most people do not want to work a Monday or a Friday because they want the long weekend. So I am asking that this position be moved full-time, and it would cost $17,000 to do that.
Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sonia had come to me and presented exactly what she just did to you as well. She has a very small staff, but it appears, since I've been here in 3 years, the case load is increasing dramatically of just the workload. And with the people going to be out, I agree, and told my recommendation is to this committee is for support to take that out. Human resources is very important to us, and keeping us on the right track, advising our employees, as well as keeping us from doing the wrong thing, saying the wrong thing, and getting into any type of litigation. It's just it's the society that we're in. And people, if we're not on top of it, things fall through the cracks, and we can't afford that at this point. So I support her recommendation, or request, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Go ahead, Sonia.
One other thing is, I know that the question would be, well, this is going to be an ongoing increase because you're going to take somebody full-time. I've heard that question asked before. And the individual who assumed the full-time position does not need our insurance benefits. So the money that we have budgeted plus this would be the ongoing amount, because insurance would not be a factor that this employee would need, one of the employees would need. So we would not have to budget for that in that position. So not to say that if that person left, the next person wouldn't want it, so I wouldn't want to imply that, but the current situation, that's the way it is.
But there's nothing constant but change, and we have to change with the times, and proactive changes are good. So I have no problem with it. So do we have a motion? Any other questions? I'll ask that. Any other questions or comments? Mr. Piercy?
Will the position be open to out-of-office people only, or will it be open to in-office also?
No, we opened it to, we posted the position as a part-time position and put a disclaimer, that it may have a potential, not knowing what would happen, but we posted as a part-time. It was posted, and we got 19 applicants, but of the applicants that we reviewed, there were very few that even knew how to do Excel. And everything we do in HR is in a database that we have to create ourselves. We use reports that come out of the payroll system, and we have another, My Benefits channel, a system that we share with risk management, and everything we do is a manual process for us. And so there's not a lot of part-time people that have the Excel skills to do that from a part-time basis. So it has already been open to everybody.
Is there a chance that someone in the office could take this job and create another opening beforehand?
So no, because what happened is I had the one employee who was full-time left to take the work-from-home job. My part-time employee, we cross-train because I try to be too deep in all of our processes in the event something like this happens. Well, the part-time employee was at a place where she wanted the position and was doing a lot of the duties, was the backup to the full-time person. So she went into the full-time role already, which vacated her part-time position. I can't or I don't think it would be a good idea to fill the person who's out on leave, because if they get to come back a month early, then that means only somebody's going to be out, for the time it would spend me to train for 8 weeks, and then them be gone would not be helpful to us. So that's where my worry kind of is.
Okay, thank you. I'll make the motion to approve her request.
Have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Call the roll.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And the mayor is going to address the governor's direct appropriation grant expenditures for pause. Mr. Mayor?
I think Michael Gregory is here.
Michael? All right. Did you for that young man? But you're delegating, that's good.
I got excited. I didn't think I was going to have to speak. During the budget process, we had put a couple of items in at Paul's that were removed. One was replacement of our water heater, and the second was replacement of part of our kennel flooring. The kennel flooring's got some cracks in it, and of course, water's going down in that every day when we clean. So it's to come back in and have that flooring sanded down and put back on. The total cost for both of those projects is in the neighborhood of $40,000. I'd spoken to the mayor, and we discussed using the governor's 21 grant money to get those items placed back in my budget.
Any questions? Comments? Motion?
Motion to approve.
Mr. Allen made the motion to approve. Second? Mr. Dodd? Call the roll.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Item 17, General Fund Budget Amendment for Information Technology. Mr. Cody York or Lisa?
Can you do this one?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Not sure where Cody's at right now, but what this is if you recall, Megan, we moved because she worked in IT, ended up getting married to Darren. We felt there was a conflict, the two of them working together. So last year we moved her into my budget. During that process of Cody's budget, he had requested two people. One was a programmer, and the other one was a
software specialist.
Software specialist. When we got down to the budget, I had recommended only hiring one position. We cut the other one. He, I guess, going through the process, I guess he thought or forgot that he didn't have that authority to, and it wasn't in the budget, but he went ahead and posted it, that second person, and interviewed and made the offer. So in the meantime, Megan had left. She went ahead and retired. So trying to think of how best to handle that, because it wasn't in his budget. Megan's vacant position was in mine, actually working with Ashley. So to keep from going into the general fund to fund this position to cover for him, since he had already made the offer to this young man, my request is to transfer that position back to IT. And I think Lisa's only...
The money is the same.
It's the same. So I said, Cody, this person is going to have to pick up and take care of the website and going to have to do everything that Megan was doing to help Ashley. And he said that that would happen because this person that he hired actually had those same skill sets. So my request is to move it back, this position back to IT.
Move the position, and we're changing from a web media specialist to a software specialist. We're changing the title too.
Basically, this is no new money, no new expenses.
Correct.
Right.
It's a housekeeping measure of necessity.
That's correct. Yeah, since
Would
we
that
were-
be correct? Okay. Any questions or comments on this? Do I have a motion and a second?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve. Got a second? Mr. Dodd, you second? Or Mr. Piercy, did you second? Okay. We got a motion and a second. Call roll.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes. Thank you very much, Mayor.
Well, and Director York, Mr. Chairman, apologized. He couldn't believe it happened, but he was very apologetic. And he said, I'm in trouble. And when he called me and
Friday afternoon.
on a Friday afternoon, like I was on my way home, and so called Lisa as well. And but outside of that, Mr. York's done a really good job in that position. This was just
No problem.
it was a
That's the reason they put erasers on the end of pencils, you know.
Question.
well. Fortunately, it worked out.
If we had not bailed him out, what was the consequence?
Consequence is that we would be asking to take money out of the ending fund balance midterm in the budget. Or, you know, it was going to be difficult for him to go back and tell that young man he didn't have the job after we offered it to him. So I'm just thankful that it all worked out.
Any other comments? Okay. Item 18, general fund budget amendment for planning and engineering. Doug Mossy, and I guess Mr. Hughes is not here, so in your court, Doug.
I'm solo on this one tonight, but that's okay. Good evening, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well tonight. As you recall, this was mostly a discussion at Public Works, I believe, but the public notification mail-outs that we do, we typically would do 500 feet. That got changed to 1,000 feet. In order to help out with the office, of course, we do have a folding machine which folds and stuffs the envelopes, helps us save a lot of time. The current one that we have is pretty much on its last legs. There's not much that we can really do with that anymore, so we're asking for some funding to replace that unit. What you see here, this is coming out of the unassigned fund balance. We did not have this budgeted in our current fiscal year budget. You'll see the $4,200. That's not just for the unit. That's for the unit for delivery and training. The $700 goes into maintenance agreements. That's the only recurring cost that we'll have to budget for in subsequent budget years. The $4,220 is a one-time fee. So that's what we're asking for. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
This amendment came through Public Works, and we discussed it thoroughly. It passed unanimously, and I make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve. Got a second?
Second.
Mr. Pearson, okay. Call the roll.
I was going to say, is there a reason we couldn't take this out of Gov 21 money also? We've still got money left in Gov 21. It is a one-time expense. You could take the $700, which is a recurring maintenance expense, out of fund balance, but you could take the $4,220 out of Gov 21 money.
May I modify my motion to allow...
I didn't mean to talk you into anything.
...for an investigation? If this money could be pulled
It
from Gov 20, I would wish to do so.
We got about $170,000 left, looks like to me.
Yeah, we've got plenty of money.
Move the 4220 out of the Gov and the 700 out of maintenance agreement.
Same second.
Call the roll.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes. Thank you very much.
Now you got that money back. Don't spend it all at one time, huh?
Okay, 19, Ms. Lisa will be taking the general fund budget amendment for finance.
Okay, this is an amendment request out of our new fund, other general government special revenue fund, American Rescue Plan. As you can see, this is the fund that we're accounting for the $32 million. My request is to use $79,505 to fund a position, a grant coordinator specific to this revenue source. This person will be responsible for researching, performing analytical work, maintaining, reviewing, coordinating, reporting, and ensuring compliance with all American Rescue Plan Act funding requirements. It is a grant-funded position which will end on 12/31/2024. Now, my reasoning for this is there is quite a bit of reporting that's going to have to be done with this, and frankly, we are saturated. There are monies, administrative monies that out of here that could be used for this purpose. So for me, it is a dual purpose. It is I'm saying 2, maybe 3 years, depending on how long it takes us to spend this money. But it's also an option to bring somebody in that can, another attempt at bringing a person in to be a grant coordinator long term. If you remember, I did that earlier with the coronavirus money, and I brought somebody in and used that money to train. But that gentleman lasted about 8 months and left with what training we gave him. And so we're back at square one. So this is my attempt again to try to use federal funding to fund a grant coordinator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have been so successful, and on the first $9,998,000 that...
Wait, that comes later.
That comes later?
Yeah.
But anyway, I recommend that for approval on this and support her her request tonight. It's for a 2-year period, is that correct? But I think it's well worth it of just getting these dollars out to those folks who need the rental.
Well,
the landlords.
Well, this is not the rental part. This is the American Rescue, the $64 million deal.
64 million.
The $64 million deal. So that aside, we had class last week on the American Rescue Plan on that $64 million tranche. So we've got that. Well, there is another. I'm going to go back. You remember those little handouts we gave you, and some of the infrastructure money you could use that money for was water, sewer, and broadband.
Broadband.
Okay. So there were classes. I just said, okay, county doesn't do water, sewer. I'm not worrying about those. But when we went to class, when I say class, state people are discussing. Well, TDEC, there's this huge amount. Not only did we get money, but the state got money from this American Rescue Plan. And at the state level, it could be used for water, sewer, broadband. So that large pot of money is running through TDEC. TDEC's idea is to funnel that money, water, sewer. Well, there's over 400 utility districts in the state. There's more than 330 municipalities in the state. Not all of them have utilities, water and sewer. But TDEC's plan was to run that money through the county and let the county coordinate the water sewer plan in the county. And I told them, I said, do you realize what kind of administrative burden you're putting on the county? And we don't even have anything to do with water and sewer. So with all of that, that was another reason. So we're going to need some help if that goes through.
I have a couple of questions. If that's the case, can we just refuse to accept the money and be part of it? I don't think it's fair to us to add that burden.
I would agree. I mean, I told them my views, and they said, well, that's what they're talking about. It's not for sure. But that was one of the classes that I missed when they were saying that the money was coming through. Reba was calling me, did you watch that? That's coming through? But after that, it's like, okay, they're still working on the plan. But from their perspective, it's easier to contract with us counties, 95 counties, as opposed to all those different utilities and all those, you know, looking at it as state view. So,
Is there anything in writing where we could look at that and see if there's a way that we could just opt out of being the third-party conduit for it?
Again, this stuff changes all the time. I'm just saying that is the message that they were talking last week.
And then back
But
to your...
here's the thing, if you have it coming through, you know, it's almost like with this rental assistance. Do you bring it in to the county with our municipalities? I mean, I want our municipalities and consolidated utility district to get the money. I just don't want it to come through us.
Well, that's for sure. Back to your grant request, could we ask the person that you hired to sign the contract to work through that term so that they don't get trained and then go off somewhere else?
Gosh, I'd love to.
I mean, is that something that we could do?
I don't know, we'd have to get with HR.
Well, I would hate for us to spend this money and then they leave after 6 months and we start all over again, so.
Yeah. I don't know if I have any, that's HR question. My plan is to get somebody with accounting and train them in grants.
You want to come up, Sonia?
Mind stating your question again? I want to make sure I understand.
Lisa's asking for a grant-funded position to administer this grant and help keep up with the reporting and all that, and the description here says that the grant ends on December 31st, 2024. My question was, can we do a contract with the person we hire to require them to serve throughout that term if we hire them?
So for them to give us a commitment that they would not leave?
Correct.
I will say we have not done that in the past. I would need to research, because what comes to mind is if we had an agreement like that, we would have to have also some exclusions. You know, should they have a medical incident, maybe for whatever reason they have to move out of state. Currently what we do is, for new hires, we started this, the commission approved this several years back, reimbursement costs for the new hire expenses like their drug screen, their background check, any training that they may have received that we spent on them taking additional training to go somewhere. Say this individual went to a grant class and it was going to cost the county $200. We always have an agreement where we prorate. If the employee leaves within their first year, they have to reimburse all those costs to the county. And if they leave after a training, there's a prorated amount depending on the cost of the training. So for recouping cost of those type expenses from an employee is something that we already do. I would really have to look and talk to the county attorney, in which you're an attorney, so if we would have to put some kind of exclusions, because I can foresee that something, you know, life happens to all of us, something that there might be that happened that would force them to have to leave before the 2 years was up, and even maybe a month or two into it. So I will have to research that and get back with you, because I don't want to misspeak.
I'm just trying to solve the revolving door problem. Could we make them an independent contractor, or do they have to be an employee of the county to do it with this money?
I mean, I can do it either way. There's just not many people out there with these skills.
Well, and also we cannot provide any of the resources or tools for an independent contractor. They have to provide their own, since they would probably need to be involved with. We cannot direct their work when they're an independent contractor. We just give them a project and say, here's this, I want you to make, 500 nameplates for me, and we don't tell them how to get the nameplates or how to do the work. We don't provide the equipment. With this situation, that would probably be a little bit hard to do because we're also getting guidance from the federal government on how to implement and what things can be paid, and so there's going to be a lot of interaction in how we direct the work. So I would be concerned about making them an independent contractor.
I'd agree with that.
I was just looking at the cost of the insurance and all of that, and if you could pay them, $75,000 as a contractor instead of $40,000, that might make it more attractive for somebody. But I do understand you wouldn't be able to control them as much. But if they have tasks to do and they don't do them, then you could terminate the contract, I suppose. But then we're back to where we started without somebody that can help us. So,
For me, the whole idea is to get them in here, train, and hopefully in 2 years there might be a role for them.
You could have, that's where my mind was going, there may be somebody who retires or changes jobs or something like that, that this person might be qualified for in the county, if not in finance in another department. Because typically in those situations we do if someone is interested in longer term, outside of the grants, because we've had other departments that have had grants where they only lasted for 2 years or 3 years, and when that time came near, if they were interested in staying with the county, we've tried to find them other employment within the county that they're qualified for, obviously, but especially if they were a good employee. And so,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did that answer your question, Robert?
well, I guess so. If we could get like a definite yes or no on whether we could have a contract with them by our commission meeting, that would be very helpful. That's next.
Something that will handcuff them to us.
Well, we just don't want them to leave if we invest in the training. And
Yeah, but I don't want anybody to leave.
Lisa, do you have any suggestions what we need to do as far as handling this situation? Or
This would, hiring the person, having the ability for them to come into the county is what to me would be the draw, is to get them in.
it would sure take a lot of pressure off of you, right? You got 3 hands full with 2 hands, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
In the public sector, Mr. Chairman, don't ambulance and the sheriff's department, after they do the training, they sign a form before we send them to get post-certified or training that they have to, if they leave early, they have to repay it? Couldn't we do something?
That's if we send them to a school, which I'm not opposed to. If there's schools that we're sending them to, that we put that in the agreement, that if they leave within so much, I think kind of what they do, that.
Mr. Dodd?
It would help me even more support this if I understood just one component. So your current motive is to administer the grant we have. But I would hope that this person would transition into a grant writer, because that would pay for itself.
Right.
So do you anticipate that as well, post 24
That's my hope.
and beyond?
Right.
Do we have a motion and a second?
No.
We have neither one?
Neither one.
I'm going to support this despite Robert's good observations and because I just think grant writing is so critical and will pay for itself and be a money generation. I don't know how to guarantee they stay and take advantage of our training, but nonetheless, I'll make a motion to approve this position.
Okay, do we have a second? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Call the roll.
Commissioner Stevens?
yes.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes. Okay. 21 would be,
20.
I'm sorry, approval of item 20, approval of recipients for the Emergency Rental Assistance Program. Lisa?
Okay, so we've got about 3 items coming up on emergency rental assistance. The guidance came out in February, and just like the American Rescue money, it changes. And in the beginning, it was very difficult to get required documentation, what the Treasury was wanting. As time went by, they changed. They loosened things up and made it easier. There was a discussion of how much money, you hear these words, rental assistance for rent, utilities, and then there is stability services. That was a part that Rutherford County hadn't really addressed, the stability services part. And when I speak to that, I'm speaking to, and I'm reading this out of their question and answers, FAQs. Services include, among other things, eviction prevention, eviction diversion programs, mediation between landlords and tenants, housing counseling, fair housing counseling, housing navigators that help households access ERA programs or find housing, case management related to housing stability, housing-related services for survivors of domestic abuse, human trafficking, legal services, or attorney fees related to eviction proceedings, and all like that. That is stability services. So all the county did in the very beginning is that we sent information out through Charity Tracker. It is if you're familiar with that, it is kind of a database case management situation that people join in, and it was a way for us to reach out to our various nonprofits to ask them if they would assist us with this program. And in the beginning, we didn't have anything set. We just said, would you help us? And we had some that did. We were, at that point, thinking that we had to use, when you have 100% of the funding, that 90% was for utilities and rental, and the other 10 was for admin, of which a portion of that had to go to our third-party administrator, thinking that 10 had to come out of that stability services out the first 10. Clarification has happened, and it's 10 administration, 10% stability services, 80% rent utilities. So we don't have boots on the ground helping people. It's just been, we had this first blast out to people in the beginning and hoping that, on our website we would drive people. We are just about done with our ERA 1 funds, which was about $10 million. We've got two payments coming through the process. After that, we will be 91% spent of our first pot of money. We will be moving into our second part, ERA 2, and it is it's got a little bit looser guidance, but with this one, we decided we really need those boots on the ground and help people find housing and case management of people for our lowest income and people struggling. So what we did was, again, reach out to the folks on Charity Trackers and ask them, we gave them the list of the things that we needed and asked for their responses back. We received 8 responses. We set our budget at $500,000. And if you go to page 1, this is what resulted from that scan. A lot of these names you are familiar with. John Callow, if y'all are familiar with him, with community development that he was with city. He's been a tremendous asset to us because he is in this game, helping us, guide us through these subrecipients. It was me, Reba, John, and Lisa Bollinger, my office, who reviewed these, came out with, because each of these help a different segment of our society, each of them do work with homelessness, and we allocated our funds, our budget of $500,000, to all 8. So our request to you is to use our $500,000 for stability services towards these 8 organizations.
Do you have do you have another 500 that will go to the same purpose eventually? You're not at 10% yet. Are you just you're just partially into?
We're going to be less than.
Okay.
We're going to be less than, and we spent the first $10 million with no stability services provided. Our agencies were out there helping without support.
I'm going to make a motion to approve this, and I'm going to make it quickly, just because these nonprofits are already serving in this capacity. For us to be able to use this money and help them is just a no-brainer for me. So I'll make a motion to approve this.
We have a motion and a second. Call a roll.
Yes.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes. Okay.
Okay, there's a sample, you can see it's very lengthy, agreement that they'll have to sign, and what all that they're agreeing to is pretty stiff.
Let me ask you a question, Lisa. On 21 and 22, resolution for facsimile signature for payroll account for Sun Trust and First Bank. Can we take those?
I think we can take those together because really it's the same thing. We've got 2 accounts, the trustees warrant account and the payroll account. We're having to change the authorized signatures with a change in chairmanship with the Board of Ed. So it's the same request.
It's just redundant. I mean, any problem with any of that committee? Okay. Do we have a motion and a second?
I'll make a motion we approve both of those requests.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. And we can do this by voice vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Number 23, amendment to the Horn LLP contract for emergency rental assistance program. Lisa?
Okay. Now this is the, Horn is the third-party administrator of this rental assistance program. Our initial contract was with the first $10 million, and that ends in December and ends when we spend all our money, which we're going to be spending all our money. So this amendment to the contract is for the ERA 2, and actually give it between the 2, 1 and 2, they will, I think it's 8.8% of both contracts. We've already received 40% of the funds, and then we'll get the 60% of it later. This agreement, we will pay them $474,700 for the first tranche of ERA 2, and $711,300 for the second tranche. The total that we will pay them under this contract is $1,186,000.
Any questions or comments? Mr. Mayor, do you have any comment or anything?
No, sir.
Okay. Do we have a motion and a second?
I have a question, Mr. Chairman. So, Lisa, what's the difference between contracts with private agencies and other contracted services?
Are you looking at the amendment?
Yes.
Okay, contract with private agencies is our subrecipients. There's an extra
one we just voted on.
The one they just voted on. That's an extra 100 just in case something comes up that I'm not thinking of.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
That's the amendment to the contract. Is that? I just want to make sure. Amendment number 23 is amendment to the Horn contract.
Yes, that was my motion.
Okay. You threw me when you went to the other thing.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Call the roll.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd? Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes. Okay. item 24, Lisa.
Okay, so item 24 is the budget amendment that brings in the money that we received last year for ERA2 and the balance of the 60% that we should get this year, and allocating it to the contracts with private agencies, rentals, other contracted services, which is Horn, and the utilities. $7,911,980.
Any questions or comments?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
And second. Call roll.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes. Okay. Any other business to come before the committee?
I have a question for the mayor.
Yes, sir.
Have you had a reply on your State Farm offer yet?
No, sir. I talked to Mel Schmidt, I believe is his name, one of the 3 owners of JDM Properties. He last month told me that he would be flying in here on the 8th, which is tomorrow. On Monday of this week, I sent a text to him and asked him, are you still planning on being here on the 8th? And he said, I'll be in sometime in October. He asked me last week to set a meeting up with him, or 2 weeks ago, to set a meeting up with Mayor Cooper, which I just connected the two by email, and I don't know if he ever got that done or not. So I said, well, I've got to be out of town for my anniversary. Please let me know when you're coming so I can be here. And he said, I sure will. That's where we are. I'm hoping that he'll give me a date-specific time that we can sit down and talk. If not, then I think we need to move on.
Okay, thank you. I have one other question. This really doesn't pertain to budget, but it could in the long run.
Everything, if it had money, deals with money, it does.
Our landfill, our leachate pumping and hauling and all, by Mr. Nolan being away, is there somebody watching that closely, or is it automatically taken care of on a daily basis? Because we don't want it to get out of hand.
I just signed another contract today. I think it was a bill that came through my office for purchasing. I signed that today. I believe in the interim, with Mr. Nolan leaving tomorrow, what's her name? Tanya feels like that she has it under control.
Okay.
And has made everybody rest assured until I think our posting ends on Tuesday for that position. So even at that, once we select 3 or 4 to interview, and they give a 2-week notice, we need some stability there. So Tanya's going to be there. She's made the drivers feel more comfortable, and but I've had Mr. Sandlin out there for the last 3 days, just trying to be there for assistance, do whatever it needs to be done. We'll make sure that leachate gets hauled.
All the heavy rain that we've had the last few days was the reason I was concerned.
Yes, sir. Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. A follow-up with the mayor on the State Farm. So last month, we said that October 1 was kind of your deadline. So do you have a new deadline in mind?
I would say if he says sometime in October, you know, I hate moving deadlines like that, but in this case, if he's not interested, you know, I kind of got the feeling that when he told me that State Farm still had 7 years left on their lease, not a big deal to them. You know, they're a multi-billion-dollar company, and $50 million to them is not a big deal. You know, so it doesn't seem to have the same urgency. And my conversation with him is what I have, you know. So I would say by November 1, then I'll probably come back to you and say we need to move forward. I do have a plan B I'm working on.
Go ahead, Lisa.
I will say, as far as deadlines, the final rule
Yeah, that got transferred
Had the
too.
interim final rule that we were under, but they were all saying, make sure you wait till the final rule. Final rule's supposed to be out September 10th. It's now probably sometime in December.
Yeah, and I heard today, November.
You heard November?
Yeah, I heard November
I heard
from the
December.
comptroller's office. So it's
These deadlines with this federal money.
it's crazy. I mean, it's
Any further?
like the
Okay.
vaccination.
Thank everybody for another productive meeting and for your patience with me. And everyone have a nice weekend, and we are adjourned.